Parents missing a graduation? Oh no, darlings. That's not an oversight. That's a red flag waving in 4K. And trust me, when the truth comes out, this cap and gown won't be the only thing in flames.
The afternoon sun bounced off the glass windows of the auditorium, making the whole campus glow like it had been polished just for us. I stood in line with the rest of my graduating class, cap pinned down with a dozen bobby pins, diploma folder clutched in my sweaty hands. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. 4 grueling years of medical school, 4 years of sleepless nights, of coffee-fueled study sessions, of fighting through doubt and debt and exhaustion. 4 years of telling myself it would all be worth it when I walked across that stage and saw my family cheering in the crowd. The dean called the first names, applause thundered. I craned my neck, scanning the rows of parents, siblings, and grandparents waving cameras and flowers, and that's when I saw it. 5 empty seats, the ones with my family's name taped neatly to the backs. Reserved, waiting, empty. My breath caught. Surely they were running late, traffic maybe, or parking, something, anything but what it looked like. I kept my smile in place even as my classmates threw their arms around their parents in the audience. I laughed at their jokes, nodded along, pretended I wasn't staring at those empty chairs like they were graves. When my name was called, I forced my feet to move. The cheers from the audience swelled like a wave, but none of it was for me. I walked across the stage, shook hands, and smiled for the camera. My classmates' families clapped politely. My professors gave encouraging nods. But the people I wanted most to see, the ones I had imagined in my mind 1,000 times, standing and cheering and crying proud tears, they weren't there. I walked off stage and back to my seat, my diploma folder suddenly heavier than any textbook I'd ever carried. Around me, classmates beamed as they pointed out their loved ones in the crowd. "That's my mom! That's my little brother with the balloon!" I stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. When the ceremony ended, confetti rained down from the ceiling. My classmates surged into the crowd, swallowed by hugs and camera flashes and bouquets. I stood alone. No one rushed toward me. No one thrust flowers into my arms. No one asked me to pose for a picture. I clutched the folder to my chest and tried to disappear into the corner of the crowd, hoping no one would notice the shame prickling hot across my skin. A friend's mother touched my arm. "Sweetheart, congratulations. Where's your family?" I forced a smile so tight it hurt. "Oh, they couldn't make it." She looked sympathetic, her eyes soft with pity. That pity was the last thing I wanted. I mumbled thanks and turned away before the tears spilled. On the drive home, the campus still buzzing in my rearview mirror, I stared at my phone. No calls, no messages. Until finally, a text buzzed in. "We're sorry, something came up. We'll celebrate later, love you." I stared at those words until they blurred. Something came up. My graduation, my once-in-a-lifetime moment, and something came up.
Something came up? Oh, Alicia, that's not an excuse. That's a betrayal wrapped in text bubbles. And trust me, darling, when you find out what really came up, you'll wish those seats had stayed empty forever.
The next day, my classmates uploaded photos of their families draped around them, bouquets in their arms, champagne corks popping in the background. I scrolled through the posts with my thumb, smiling bitterly at captions like, "Couldn't have done it without them," and "Best family ever." I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I set it face down on the nightstand and stared at the ceiling. Because the truth was, I had done it without them. Every late-night study session, every exam that nearly broke me, every clinical rotation that left me exhausted, I had pushed through alone. I'd earned that diploma with my own blood and grit, and yet the silence in those 5 empty chairs still screamed louder than my achievement. When I finally went downstairs, Mom was in the kitchen. She looked up with a casual smile, like she hadn't just missed the single biggest moment of my life. "There's leftover lasagna if you want some," she said, like we were discussing a Tuesday night dinner. I dropped into a chair, arms folded tight. "Where were you?" She paused, her smile faltering. "Sweetheart, we told you. Something came up." My jaw clenched. What could possibly come up that's more important than your daughter graduating medical school? Dad walked in just then, newspaper under his arm. "Don't start this again. You know we love you." My laugh came out sharp. Funny way of showing it. Later that evening, I sat at the dinner table with them. My younger sister, Clarissa was glowing. She rested a hand on her swollen belly, chattering about her baby shower, about gifts, about names she and her husband were debating. Everyone laughed, nodded, congratulated her. And me, I sat there invisible, the only one at the table without flowers, without photos, without fanfare. The realization began to creep in like a chill. Maybe they hadn't just missed my graduation. Maybe they hadn't wanted to come at all. The next morning, my cousin posted an Instagram reel. I tapped it without thinking, then froze as the video played. Pink streamers draped across a living room, a cake decorated with pastel booties. Dozens of family members I hadn't seen in months crowded together, clapping and cheering as Clarissa held up a tiny onesie. The caption, "Best baby shower ever. Congratulations, Clarissa." My blood ran cold. I paused the video, fingers trembling, and scanned the crowd. There they were, my parents, standing front row, smiling, clapping, beaming with pride. While I was walking across the stage, alone, they had been at a baby shower. My sister's baby shower. I threw my phone onto the bed, my chest heaving. My hands shook as I pressed them to my face, trying to swallow the scream clawing up my throat. It wasn't that they'd missed my graduation, it was that they'd chosen something else, someone else. They hadn't just skipped my moment. They had traded it for hers. That night, I lay awake in the dark replaying the video in my mind. My parents, clapping and smiling. Clarissa, holding her belly like a trophy. My diploma sat on the dresser across the room, still in its navy folder. I should have been proud. I should have felt victorious. Instead, all I could think was, my family doesn't see me at all. And when I finally confronted them, they were going to know just how much that hurt.
So there it is. The truth, wrapped in pink ribbons and a baby onesie. Alicia didn't just lose her spotlight, she was never even in their lineup. But oh, darling, she's about to shine brighter than they ever expected.
By the third day, the ache in my chest turned into something sharper, anger. I'd played nice at dinner, I'd swallowed their weak excuses, but the image of them clapping at Clarissa's baby shower while I walked the stage alone burned too hot to ignore. So that evening, I called them into the living room. Mom settled onto the sofa with her tea. Dad carried the same folded newspaper, like this was any other night. Clarissa waddled in, hand on her belly, glowing like she was the second coming. I didn't bother with pleasantries. "Why weren't you at my graduation?" The room fell silent. Mom shifted in her seat. "Sweetheart, we already explained." Something came up. I cut her off. "Don't. I saw the video. I saw you, both of you, at Clarissa's baby shower. While I crossed the stage, while 5 seats sat empty with our name on them, you were clapping for cake and balloons." Their faces froze, guilt flickering like a shadow. Dad cleared his throat. "Graduations happen all the time, baby showers. Well, this was Clarissa's first. It's special." I laughed, but it came out jagged. "Graduations happen all the time? Really? Do you see medical degrees growing on trees? Do you think I stayed up until dawn, cried in libraries, racked up student loans, just to hear you say it's common?" Clarissa's hand fluttered over her stomach. "Alicia, don't make this about competition. My baby's coming, and I needed them there. You'll have other graduations." That's when the last thread of restraint snapped. "Other graduations? Clarissa, my graduation date was announced 2 years ago. Everyone knew it. Professors, classmates, even distant cousins. And you expect me to believe a baby shower couldn't be moved? A shower, a party, could have been any weekend. But you chose to put it on the same day. And Mom, Dad, you went along with it." Mom opened her mouth, then closed it. Dad muttered, "Well, it was the only time people were free." I shook my head in disbelief. "You mean the only time you were willing to be free for her, because you were never planning to be free for me?" I stared at them, my vision swimming with tears. "Do you hear yourselves? You didn't just skip my graduation. You told me my dreams, my achievements, my blood and sweat mean less than her choices, that I mean less." No one spoke, not even Clarissa, and in that silence, I finally understood the truth. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't bad timing. It was a choice. I took a deep breath, my voice steady even as my hands shook. "Thank you for showing me where I stand. I'll remember it." Clarissa shifted uncomfortably. Mom frowned. Dad muttered something about me being dramatic. But I didn't care anymore. That night, as I lay in bed staring at my diploma on the dresser, I realized I wasn't crying anymore. I was finished begging for their pride. The next time I walked a stage, they could stay home again. I'd rather sit with 5 empty chairs than with people who'd already proven I wasn't worth the drive. I turned out the light and whispered into the dark, I'll build my future without them. And for the first time, I believed myself.
Families always reveal their hierarchy, and when they circle the wagons around one child, they leave the other outside in the cold. Alicia's not just hurt anymore. She's done playing second place.
Dinner the next weekend was supposed to be a family celebration. Mom roasted chicken, Dad poured wine, and Clarissa beamed like the centerpiece of her own shrine. I sat there with my plate untouched, my diploma folder tucked in my bag beside me like a weapon. Finally, I set down my fork and said, "We need to talk." The room quieted. "I want you to hear this clearly," I began, my voice trembling, but loud enough to echo. "You didn't miss my graduation because of bad timing. You didn't miss it because of traffic or work or an emergency. You missed it because you chose not to be there." Mom shifted, already defensive. "Alicia, don't start again." "No!" I snapped, my chair scraping as I pushed it back. "You will hear me. My graduation date was known 2 years ago. The baby shower could have been scheduled any weekend. Any. But you decided her celebration mattered more than my achievement. That's not an accident. That's not love. That's favoritism. Plain and simple." Dad frowned, setting his wine glass down hard. "You're making this bigger than it is. You'll have other milestones." "Other milestones?" I laughed, bitter. "Do you hear yourself? Do you think medical degrees are casual? Do you think nights crying into textbooks, thousands in loans, years of lost sleep come with a redo button? That was my one chance to be seen, to be celebrated. And you left me with empty chairs." Clarissa piped up, voice smug with innocence. "You're being dramatic. It was just a ceremony. My baby is—" "Don't you dare," I cut her off, heat rising in my chest. "Don't you dare compare the two. Your baby will have birthdays every year, milestones for decades. I had one moment, one stage, one chance to look into the crowd and see my family proud of me, and you all decided a cake with pink frosting was more important." Her face flushed. "You're jealous." The word sliced through me, but I stood taller. "I'm not jealous. I'm furious. Furious that my own family couldn't stand behind me. Furious that your happiness always eclipses mine. And furious that Mom and Dad never had the backbone to say no to you." The silence after that was thick, broken only by the ticking of the clock on the wall. Mom's eyes welled, her lips pressing into a thin line. Dad shook his head like I was a storm he didn't want to weather, but I wasn't done. "You taught me something, though," I said, my voice steadier now. "You taught me that blood doesn't equal loyalty, that sometimes family will look you dead in the eye and prove you don't matter. So congratulations. Lesson learned." I stood, slinging my bag over my shoulder. "Enjoy your dinner, and your baby shower stories. I've got better things to do than beg for scraps of your pride." As I walked out the front door, I heard Clarissa's muffled sobs, Dad's muttering, Mom's sniffles. But I didn't look back. For the first time, I wasn't the forgotten daughter. I was the one who walked away. And they would feel the emptiness of those seats a lot longer than I did.
Some dinners end with dessert. This one ended with Alicia flipping the table, metaphorically for now. But trust me, darling, the sweetest course is always revenge.
The night I walked out of my parents' house, I thought I'd feel empty, but instead I felt light. For years, I had carried the weight of wanting to be seen, to be chosen. That night, I finally put it down. The following weeks, I buried myself in my residency program. Long shifts, endless rounds, sleepless nights. But instead of feeling drained, I felt alive. Every patient I treated, every chart I signed, every mentor who praised my work reminded me of something my parents never could. I mattered. And in those hospital hallways, I began to find my family. Dr. Ramirez, my attending physician, slipped me coffee on mornings I looked ready to collapse. My friend Jenna brought snacks on our overnight shifts and called me Doc, with a grin that made me laugh even when I was running on fumes. They clapped for me when I succeeded. They showed up when I faltered. They were proud without me having to beg for it. That's when I realized, family isn't always the people who share your blood. Sometimes it's the ones who show up when you need them most. Months later, Clarissa gave birth. My parents sent me a group text with photos of the baby, complete with pink bows and "Welcome to the world" captions. I stared at the screen for a long time before setting my phone down. Not out of bitterness, but clarity. Because for once, I didn't feel jealous. I didn't feel less. I didn't feel small. Their absence at my graduation had once felt like a hole in my chest. Now, it felt like proof. Proof that I was strong enough to stand without them. One night, Jenna and I sat on the hospital rooftop watching the city lights flicker. She nudged me and asked, "Do you ever regret walking away?" I thought about it, about the empty seats, about the lasagna excuse, about the baby shower balloons. "No," I said finally, because they showed me the truth, and the truth set me free. A few weeks later, I stood in front of a mirror before my first official day as a licensed doctor. White coat pressed, stethoscope draped around my neck, diploma framed on the wall behind me. Ella's words echoed in my head from childhood. "We're proud of you." I used to dream of hearing that from my parents, but now I didn't need their voices. I had my own. I smiled at my reflection and whispered, "I'm proud of me." And for the first time, I truly was.
And that, my dears, is how you turn empty seats into a full life. Alicia didn't get the applause she deserved, so she gave it to herself. And trust me, darling, that's the loudest ovation of all. Share this video, binge another tale, and remember, fate always collects.